Hello and welcome back. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Erin.
And this is the Getaways Podcast. We have a special guest today.
Yay.
Yay. My niece Megan is here.
Hello.
Say hello to the people, Megan.
Hello.
We have Megan with us today because we went on a 4-day?
She's also our neighbor now.
Yes, she lives in the Netherlands now. She moved here about 9 months ago. So we get to do all kinds of fun stuff together. But the last trip was to Champagne for 4 days. And your parents, my sister and brother-in-law, your mother and father, and another special guest.
And my brother surprised us.
Yay!
It was a big surprise.
Best surprise ever. Champagne is its own region in France. Did you guys know that?
I didn't until I went there the first time.
Yeah, I knew.
You knew? Okay. I didn't also know that champagne could only be made in Champagne. So if there's a sparkling wine in California, you cannot call it champagne. It is just for everything that's produced in the region. And the region is easy to get to. It's only 90 minutes away from Paris. So you could easily fly into Paris and either rent a car or take a train.
Take the train because the train's right in the center of Rome.
Yeah.
I would suggest having a car. So
depending on where you stay, and then it gives you the freedom to go to whatever houses or whatever hikes or walks or areas you want to go to. Now, Erin and Dylan and I have been there several times previous to that trip.
Yeah,
so
like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, so we've stayed in Reims, in outside of Epernay, and we've stayed in Airbnbs and hotels. One of the hotels I actually really, really loved, and our Airbnbs were great in both of those places.
Yeah.
And then this trip, we stayed just outside of like 30 minutes
north of Reims, yeah.
In a really lovely, big, huge country house.
Yeah. We arrived on Sunday, and as you know from all of our trips, when we get somewhere on Sunday, nothing's ever open.
Nothing in France is ever open.
Or Switzerland or Germany.
And we have always nothing when we arrive.
Yeah, so if you're going to arrive to places, arrive to the Netherlands because they do not celebrate Sundays. Yeah. We did find like a small version of a bigger supermarket that was open in Reims, and they had champagne, so we were fine.
Yeah,
that's all we need.
All worked out. All right, so should we jump into the meat of it and get to the houses?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we went to
So let's start with the houses in Reims.
Okay.
So it's Veuve,
which we've done 2 different versions of tours there.
Yes, we did the cheaper version the first time we went, and we did the more customized, a little bit more expensive version when we took Megan.
That was so fun.
And I would say that was amazing.
That was like €84 a piece, I think. But how many tastings did we get?
At least 4.
Yeah, I think there was 4, if not 5.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5. And they were like good pours.
Yeah.
And we got to do the tastings down in the cellar versus the first time we went, we were up in the like little bar off of the registration area.
Like the office area. Yeah. And I think it was a little longer. That tour was like an hour and a half.
It was longer, and it was more interactive, and it was more like for all your senses, which I really liked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The caves were really impressive.
Yeah.
And it was a nice, cool break. It was hot that day,
and
the caves were nice and cool.
Yeah.
And Veuve is it's a good champagne.
And it's a good story.
It's
if
a
you
great
don't know
story.
the widow's story,
look it up.
She is just cool.
She's
and
a
like
beast.
it makes you want to drink her champagne because she's just look
it up. I'll put something up I'll put a link to a story about it, but she was cool. Nope, she was a cool broad. I'm not going to put that on there. I changed it to broad.
It's somewhere you have to go, I think, because the story is so good, the champagne is really good, and it's also just so well done.
Yes, I agree. And then the other house in Reims that we've been to, I've been to once, you've been to twice. I think it's Megan's favorite, is Pommery.
It is my favorite.
I don't know how you would say it in
Pommery.
France. I love that house. I love that champagne.
Well, and completely different vibes.
Totally different vibes.
Right?
Yeah. I felt like the Veuve tour was like a very polished tour.
Veuve, you could tell that they were under the LV moniker. Like it felt very Louis Vuitton. It felt very Gucci. You know what I mean? It was very...
It's branded.
And Pommery's more like great champagne, but cool vibe and great art.
Yeah. Yeah, the cave tour had like different artists all along the way and different exhibitions, and I thought that was really interesting.
Well, and two, the difference was that we did, okay, now I need to back up a little bit. We started planning the trip a long time ago, but we didn't actually book the house visits until probably late March, early April. And a lot was sold out, which is why we ended up with the Fancy Veuve Clicquot.
Yeah. Which, thank goodness.
Well, no, it was not a bad thing, but it wasn't what we had anticipated.
Correct.
And the only tours available at Palmeraie in English, which didn't matter, but were self-guided. So we could totally be on our own time schedule. We could wander through. There was one place where there was like butterflies hanging from the ceiling, and you could kind of like, you could meander. Like you didn't need to stay with a group or, be paying attention to what somebody's telling you. It was just kind of an self-exploration, right? That's my 2 cents.
That's a good 2 cents. Palmeraie is more than 2 cents, though.
It is. But definitely a totally different vibe. You still get like, you go down in the caves and that's where a lot of the art is.
They have an elephant in the lobby that's like balancing on his trunk on a champagne glass, right? Or a champagne bottle.
Yeah.
I love Palmeraie.
I thought the cool thing about the Veuve tour was the old, like those caves have been used for a million different things. And like the old graffiti from like 50 years ago in there, or like the hospital sign from when they used those caves for other times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's super historic.
We got to hear history versus other places we don't.
Well, and Palmeraie, you don't get that aspect of it, No. So I think even with those two, like, going to different houses, it can be a totally different experience. Like they all have their own kind of signature and, vibe about them.
And now there's one other house in Reims that we've been to. We didn't tour it, but we went to Renard.
Go to Renard.
The tours. Do they do tours or are they?
Yeah,
just
but they're like $3 gazillion.
A lot of monies, and and they do lunches and dinners too. But it's like $300 a person. But I would love to do that.
Well, yeah,
because I love Renard, and I don't know if it's big in America because when I was growing up. Everybody liked Dom Perignon, which I'm not knocking Dom Perignon. Right. It's a great wine, champagne, and Cristal, which I don't think I'm fond of anymore. And then Veuve was like the cheaper of the nice, right? That's what we drank,
right?
And then California stuff,
which was not champagne.
Yes. So, but when we were in Bourguignon and Beaune, we went to a winemaker's house for a tasting. And he was telling us, he goes, where we were on our way to Champagne, right?
I think so, yeah.
And he said, Renard's the best champagne. It's what all the French people drink. And we were like, what is Renard?
Well, we want to be French.
Yeah. And so we went to Renard and you can get a bottle that has a little leather jacket on. And so that was my first bottle of Renard was with the little leather jacket.
Yeah. The property there is beautiful.
Beautiful.
But we just went into like the little store, and then everybody was sitting having lunch outside for $1 million a person.
But I would suggest if you want to splurge, and it's not as much as Dom Perignon. So,
for the lunch and stuff?
No, if you want to buy a bottle.
Oh.
But I don't know what it is in America because it's not as expensive as Dom Perignon here in Europe.
Right. Because it's like 100 or like 80 for a Blanc en Blanc, right?
It's like $90. And that's the cheapest.
Right.
Blanc en Blanc's the cheapest, but it's still fantastic. But if you want to splurge, you should try Renard.
Right. I'm down with that.
And you had Renard. That was your housewarming.
That was my housewarming gift. It was so nice.
Should we do a little like just background of like what? Okay, so Blanc en Blanc means it's 100% Chardonnay.
Okay.
And then Blanc en Noir.
You're the wine expert, so you're going to have to do all the background.
Means that it's a Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and Meunier mix.
So that means is Chardonnay a red grape as well?
No.
So it's green.
It's a white grape.
Okay.
Yeah. But when you open up a red grape,
it's clear.
It's white on the inside. So it's just how long it macerated with the skins.
Okay. Lisa went to wine school, so she gets to educate us all.
But I don't remember much. And then there's Brut, which is dry. And then semi.
Don't get the demi sec because I always make the mistake and I get it, and it's like drinking syrup.
Yeah, it's definitely desserty.
It's a desserty wine. In fact, I just bought one today.
Yep.
On accident.
So stick with a Brut.
I like
or
a rosé.
Oh yeah, rosé. I forget about rosé because I don't like it. But anyway, that's my just a little background on that. And let's move over to Epernay.
Epernay. I've only done one tasting in Epernay.
We've done 2.
Mm-hmm. So the big one is Mercier,
which
is also owned by Louis Vuitton.
Right. Which we chose. That was our first tour.
Did we do that before VU?
Yeah, because we thought Dylan would like the train.
You know who liked the train? This girl. This girl liked the train.
But it's super cute because they have a train that goes all through the chalk tunnels, and you just get to kind of sit and relax and
it's my favorite kind of tour.
Yeah.
VU was my favorite probably of like the tours, but I liked the train. I thought it was interesting. I thought the like chalk carvings and the art that they had through it was very, again, just a very different experience. And like the history of that Champagne house was different as well. So I thought it was interesting to see. I liked even the elevator ride down to the train.
Oh, yeah, no, that was nice. Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah.
It was cool. It was well done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's at the very end of the Route de Champagne. Or
the Avenue de Champagne.
Avenue de Champagne. The route is the drive that we did. Yeah.
We got cute pictures too because it's at the end of the street. If you go you can kind of walk up near some of the grapes and you have a nice view of the whole city and the hills around it. It was really pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that street, the Avenue de Champagne.
It's fancy. It's a fancy street.
It's like being on Rodeo Drive for Champagne, right?
Moet and Chandon
Uh-huh.
is there. And what else is there? Pierre Jonet.
Yeah. Which I like. I don't even remember what else is.
At Moet and Chandon is where you would do the Dom Perignon tasting because there's no house that you can visit for Dom Perignon.
Right.
His statue's in front of the Moet.
It is, yeah. They must own it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big house.
That's a huge house.
Yeah. Which we haven't been in there. There was a line just to get in to have a glass.
Well, yeah. That's what I was saying before. Like, we thought a month was plenty of time to plan. It was not plenty of time to plan. So, like, if you want to go to, like, most houses, you got to get on it.
Months. And I guess it's just the same thing we say in almost every podcast we do is you've got to make reservations and you got to plan way ahead on most of these places.
And we were there in May. It wasn't like May 1st. It wasn't like we were there in the height of summer or spring break or Christmas. You know, like it was just a rando weekend.
How far in advance did we plan our first Pommery tour? Because we had a tour and that was the height of summer.
Well, it was also cold. The first time we were there.
No, Pommery. We only did it once and it was hot. It was on our way to Sicily one year.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
And it was hot. No, it was on our way to Sardinia and it was hot.
Yeah. And that's when the caves are like the best.
The best.
Because you're so hot and then you go down there and it's just lovely. All right. What else in cities? We did the museum. We've all been to the museum, just not together.
Yeah. So in Reims, what's it called? Our Airbnb.
Musée de Reddition.
Okay, so it's that. And our Airbnb was literally like a block away from it. And Lisa just saw it walking, right?
No, I was not feeling well that trip. And so I was just looking at things that were close that I thought I could do and then come home if I didn't feel good. And that was right down the street.
So she ended up not going, just Dylan and I went.
So this museum was where the Germans surrendered in 1945. And the war room is still set up exactly like it was there. There's still names on all the chairs. There's maps and like tracking of troops and war and everything you can imagine. And then there's exhibits all through the area, through the museum of like what the lead up was and like the articles. And it was cool to see all the different languages of all the announcements of the German surrender. And it was cool.
The different languages were cool. The different news articles and the way that the headlines were written in each country were really interesting. And just the vibe of the room itself when you look and like how the chairs are set up. And
it was like 2 German chairs. And I remember just walking in and going, oh my God, how those 2 guys surrendering for an entire country, for an entire war, like, is just crazy. I mean, it's such a moment in history, right? And it's preserved, I want to say perfectly, but, you know, I don't know exactly what it looked like then, but it doesn't look like anybody's really touched it since then, right?
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I would suggest going there. It's quick too. Like you're not there more than an hour.
Yeah, no, totally. It's really quick. And one of my other favorite things about Reims is the park.
Oh, the parks are nice. It almost feels like it's where the whole town goes to congregate at night.
For sure.
There's places for kids to play. There's little bars. There's like splash pads. It's just really nice.
Yeah. And everybody's out there.
Yeah.
And it's very well covered. So you get shade even when it's hot.
Or when it's raining.
Yeah, exactly. We got caught in the rain so bad. We both looked at each other and then like hid under a tree.
It was literally like a crack of thunder and then just the biggest downpour. And the trees really helped us out.
It did. They definitely protected us. And when we were walking around, the day that it rained really bad, there was a really cool Italian, very authentic, like market. Yeah.
Oh, a street market?
Yeah. Right down the middle of that, like one of those main streets. And they had tons of good stuff.
They had a lot. They had so many olives.
Your mother had so many olives.
But no, they had a bunch of vendors they had like really good meat, like from Italy, I think. And there was a lady with like jewelry and like blown glass and stuff.
Oh, that's so
like
nice.
all handmade stuff. And the carousel, they had
oh, really?
Yeah, they had a Sardinian booth. They had a Sicilian booth. Like they had all kinds of stuff from all over.
Nice.
Yeah. And then the rain came down and they had to close up. But one other thing about the city.
There's great antique stores.
Great antique stores. Megan can attest to that.
I got a gorgeous mirror.
They had a lot of good stuff at that store, though.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah. But the cathedrals. So there's the main cathedral, which is beautiful and completely worth seeing. And then we went into Saint-Remy.
Is the main cathedral Notre Dame?
Yeah, it's called Notre Dame de Reims.
Reims.
Yeah, it's the Saint-Remy Basilica.
Yeah, which was also totally worth seeing. It was really pretty.
Mm-hmm. It was really pretty. It was much older than I'd expected. And yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, so definitely the Notre Dame and Saint-Remy are worth a visit. And, you know, we say this about a lot of places, but just walking around the city, there's good shopping, there's good food, there's good, like, just stop and get a drink places.
Mm-hmm. It's France. You can't go wrong. And you got to try the butter when you're in France. I don't know what else to say. I know I say
you're going to hear that a lot.
Every time I talk about France, France has the best butter.
And then I think one last thing that we did not get to do together is the hiking through the
Hauteville.
There you go.
Is that how you say it?
Hauteville?
Well, it looks like it's Hauteviller, but it's French. So
I'm certain that's how you pronounce it.
So that's where Dom Perignon, his first house was. I don't know if that's still where their house is and their vines, but that's where it was originally from.
Well, and he's definitely celebrated there. I mean,
definitely celebrated
there's,
there.
You know, everything's like his name and, you know, statues and like that.
So you can park in this spot, the parking lot, and there's a whole hike that's easy to find. I'll put it on the website, but it's a whole hike through the town, then up through the vines and then through a forest and then back down. And it was amazing. And it was the heat of summer, but we were covered a lot of the time.
Yeah. And we tend to go early because we take the dog too.
It was such a good hike.
Yeah.
And I would go back and do that walk every trip if I could. Yeah. It was fantastic.
Yeah. It just logistically didn't make sense.
No.
But yeah, I say go to Champagne, man.
Yeah. I have some questions.
Yeah.
I have some questions for Megan. When I very first started going to France, like the first time I went to Paris, I was like, I just don't know if it's for me, right? And so I would always say, I don't really like France to Lisa. And she's like, you don't know France. And so once I started going to France, I fell in love with France. Like I love France as much as I love Italy now. Like I love France. Did you love France?
I didn't know much about France. I thought I had because I'd like been to Paris a couple of times and I was like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like it's beautiful, but I don't know if it's for me. Kind of the same, like similar.
But you never like thought about, I'm on a vacation in France.
Yeah, I never really thought. Yeah, it was always just like a stop to somewhere else. And this was, this changed my mind.
France is good, isn't it?
France is good.
Okay. I have questions for both of you. If you could only drink one champagne for the rest of your life, which would it be? I know you don't really like champagne.
I do not. But I'm going to say Pierre Jouet.
Oh, okay.
Because,
you?
Oh, yeah. I want to go to that house so bad.
Yeah.
Okay, mine would be the Pommery.
The Blanc de Noir.
Yeah.
Renard.
All right.
For sure. And do you guys want to go back to Champagne?
Yeah. Tomorrow.
Okay. Long weekend coming up.
I feel like as a first timer, the long weekend, I needed an extra day.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so Veuve Clicquot was your favorite house.
Yeah. That was my favorite tour for sure.
Yeah, I think Veuve. I don't need to do that again. Like, I think I would only now do tours I haven't done.
Right. Right. And there's a lot. One thing I will say about Veuve Clicquot is that we tried to go to the cafe, which is really adorable and cute and quite affordable.
Mm-hmm. And we were told we didn't need reservations.
They don't take reservations.
Oh.
So, might be worth eating there and it's easy if there's room for you, but report back because we wanted to eat there and it didn't work out.
So what I will say, practical stuff, it's easy to drive in Champagne. It's easy to park. There's plenty of parking in Rons.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's what we're saying. Go to Champagne.
Thanks for coming and doing this with us, Megan.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, we will invite you again.
Do you know what we're going to go do now, people? We're going to go pop a bottle of Pommery.
And make some cocktails. But anyway, thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and review.
And check out the website, www.thegetawayswithaz.com.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Say bye, Megan.
Oh, bye.